All right. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, I was able to shut that off in time. How's everyone tonight? We'll wait a couple seconds here, I guess, see who rolls on in. It's another Friday night. It's the weather is nice. It's decent out there. A little on the warm side. Good evening, brother Jorge. How are you? You're finally getting good weather up in that area. Although you might have had a little bit of rain. I'm not sure last couple days. I know we had a little bit of rain, kind of that tropical depression. It's funny how they call it depression. I never looked that up. Why they call it tropical depression? How they depressed about being in the tropics? I don't know. That was my dad joke or humor for the day. I'm glad everybody's available. My face is kind of shady. Hold on one second, please. Let me do something here. Oh, what is that all about? Maybe that'll be a little bit better. All right, that shines a little bit better light on the situation. All right. So it's another beautiful week, another beautiful day. I've got no complaints in this world other than the normal ones. My knee hurts, my foot hurts because I'm getting older. It happens. What are you going to do? I don't know who's going to come on in here this evening, like I said, but the topic I put up this evening, it could be a 2-hour topic. It could be a half-hour topic. It all depends on how people view the topic of debating. I think people have difference of opinions possibly on what debating means and if we're supposed to be debating as Christians. I personally feel that we should not be debating as Christians because I think people get confused when they say, well, I'm having a discussion and sorry, I'm just pouring myself some water over here. Well, I'm defending the faith, having a conversation. When does defending the faith and conversation cross that line to debating? I think that's the problem that I'm having or that I'm seeing out there. There's one channel in particular, but there's multiple different ones. And the reason I've gone down, good evening, Prof. Gal. And the reason I'm going down this trail is because what I've seen, and I mentioned this in another video that I did. This is a live stream, but a video that I had done about debating and defending the faith. I think there's a problem. We're going to go over a couple of scriptures this evening, and you can add your own at the same time. But we often seem to conflate the two things of defending the faith and debating and making it one thing. I disagree. I think people who think they're debating are actually having a conversation, and people that think they're having a defending a conversation are debating. One of the key things we have to understand is the word debate itself. I'm going to get into Romans 1:29 in a second, I think. You know what? Let's go to Romans 1:29 now first. We'll go to Romans 1:29. And don't quote me. I think it's Romans 1:29. Let me get there, see if I'm right. But I think it's important to understand the differences. Let's see. Romans 1:29 says, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whispers. So we have a problem here. These are considered sins. Debating is considered a sin. And these, if we look at it this way, the wind behind me from my fan is blowing my pages around. But I think good, well-meaning people think that debating is a good thing. But if you look at the history of the word itself, whether you're using Latin, French, Middle English, whatever it may be, I wrote a couple of definitions down so I wouldn't forget them. But just keep in mind, now the Bible says, not cool, we got to sin. It even mentions debate in Isaiah a couple times as a negative thing. Debate just means what? To beat down, to fight, quarrel, dispute, argue. I don't think that's defending the faith. I personally don't agree that that is defending the faith. I don't think it falls in the same parameters or the same guidelines, so to speak, as defending the faith. And that's where we have the problem with. I think people want to get their point across, but how often it doesn't work that way. If you have a King James Bible, and most of the people that I watch me always have a King James Bible, so that's good. King James, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 3. I had to write a few of these down because I want to be ready tonight. Ephesians 4, 3. Where am I? Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Think about that. We're supposed to have a unity, but how often are we not in unity? Now, I'm not talking about something simple. I don't have an exact example, but I see these debate channels and backstory for a second. A brother in Christ sent it to me and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this?" Oh no, or did I find a channel? Oh, he was sending me to somebody who's on it. Long story short, so I went to this channel to look at it, and I didn't know this was a thing. I honestly, you would think that I would watch more YouTube than I actually do. I probably watched a little bit more recently than I ever have before, but I found this channel. It's all debating. But here's the problem I have with it. These supposedly brothers and sisters, brothers on these debating channels seem to be full of anger. They're just going back and forth. And I don't see any defending the faith. I think they're just trying to beat each other up and beat each other down. Now, some people will say I might take these. The argument might, you're taking the scripture out of context. Well, you could say that, and that's fine. And I'll say I'm not, but that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm going to all of a sudden get up and get angry and stuff like that. So where was I? 4:3. Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. You won't find any spirit there. You won't find anything at all. 2 Timothy, that's the one I was thinking of actually. 2 Timothy, I want to say chapter 24, verse 24. Sorry about that. 2 Timothy chapter 2. Yeah, verse 24. And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient. When I see debating, whether it be in the secular world or in this now, what I see on these Christian channels, I'm having a hard time believing that there's any gentleness here. And it goes on to say, in meekness. Yeah, that's not happening either. Instructing those that oppose themselves, if God peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth. And the problem is both sides think they have the truth. Now, I'm not saying if you're a King James guy that you're having a conversation with an ESV guy and say, hey, this is where you're wrong. Or Unitarian against a born-again Bible-believing Christian. But the problem is a lot of people these days, they're wanting their opinion or how they look at it want to be heard. Now, understand that completely. I have what I believe to be the truth. When I read the Bible, this is the truth that I see. You may disagree with me, and that's okay. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that at all. But the problem is, yes, we should have an issue because if we're not on the same page as Born Out of Season is mentioning over here of being not in unity, we don't agree, can two men walk together. Right. So I like how he says Jesus got angry many times when defending the faith. But that's not the problem I'm having here. There's not defending the truth and the faith against opposites. There are men who are calling themselves brothers and sisters who are attacking one another very viciously. And that's the problem I'm seeing. It doesn't disturb me or so much when I see, like I said, a Methodist and a Baptist. I'm just naming two denominations. You can disagree what you think of the denominations. I'm not a Methodist, obviously, and I'm not a Baptist, obviously. But, I don't know if it's obvious or not, but I'm not. But it's those who claim to go, hey, I love you, brother. But you literally just called that person every name in the book. You said all these nasty things, but now you're not brothers and sisters. Now, again, I find mostly those that I speak to, you could say it's an echo chamber, but in a way it's supposed to be an echo chamber. I would say 99.9% of the time I'm agreeing with a Christian. I don't know the last time I was in full disagreement with someone who absolutely didn't believe in the same thing. Like for instance, my wife asked me today briefly, what is it you would separate on? And I says, it'd have to come up with topics of certain things, obviously. She said, what about post-trib and pre-trib? And I said, yeah, that would be something that I'd have to separate on because I'm not post-trib. Now, we can argue the scriptures and back and forth, and that becomes a problem because a person can read a King James Bible and they can decipher it one way and say they're full of the Holy Ghost. And you can have another person who reads the King James Bible, but comes up somewhere else, and they're full of the Holy Spirit. At that point, you say, well, one of them has to be wrong, one has to be right. I would agree. But I look further at things in their life, their attitude, how they're treating others. Are they malicious intent? Are they going out of their way to create issues and try to argue things and try to make their point be the only point heard, and then make sure they're right and they're wrong? And if they can prove that you're wrong, they want to attack you. I'm not seeing how that works for love, because there's no defending the faith with love. There's no conversation with love is what I'm seeing. And even when I see people attacking other denominations or other things, we're not even going in there telling the truth. We just want to go in there and say they're morons. Now, we can rebuke them at some point and along the way, lack of better phrasing. But we tend to go into these things, and I'm embarrassed by some of the people who hold the King James Bible, because I see no rebuke with love. I don't see any correction with grace and love. I see just hate. It's just hate. It's just, you could see it in their eyes and the tone of their voice. It's almost like they're this close to what do they want to hit you. So, okay, so this is what I'm talking about right here. I love you, brother, so far, but this is exactly my point. I can do the same thing. Me and my brother went through this. Real brother. He was post-trib. He was absolutely post-trib all the way through, and he gave out every single scripture under the earth about post-trib. I went through every scripture and said it obviously reads pre-trib, and that becomes the issue I was talking about. But what happens here is, where do you go and where do I go from here? You can walk away with hatred. You can walk away with malice. You can walk away with all. I'm not saying you're going to, but say you could do all those things. But I choose not to do that. We disagree. We part. But see, some people don't do that. They don't want to part. They want to keep arguing their point. And that's another problem with debate. Very rarely have I ever seen a debate in my entire life, whether it be secular or people debating on this online. Not one single time have I ever seen, and I could be proven wrong one day and see somebody's been swayed, but I guarantee you, or I shouldn't say that. So people are going to disagree, and usually it's because they might have presuppositions, and they're predisposed, or they put in a certain way. They've been, a lot of those things. When I read the King James Bible, I would have to say I always leaned towards pre-trib when I was growing up. And I grew up in a Pentecostal church. I'm not saying I'm proud of that. I'm just saying I grew up in an Assembly of God Pentecostal church. And they supposedly were pre-trib, but they had a mixture of post-trib and pre-trib, which I thought was interesting. So I kind of leaned to pre-trib. I don't know. I wasn't really sure. I'll tell you, when I studied the Bible, when I looked at it, when I read it, to me, it just screamed pre-trib. But another person can say not so. But at that point, though, if someone is one way, unless you're having a nice sit down conversation, you're probably not going to get them on your side because you come with malice or anger because you want your point to be heard, and your point has to be right no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what name calling, you have to be right. And that's what I see. I see people who want to keep going down a road. They're usually filled with arrogance and pride, and a lot of that comes from behind it, unfortunately. And doesn't mean that person's this awful human being and they're just disgusting or anything like that. It just means that's something they've got to deal with, and they want to try to put that on someone else. But we have to deal with that along the way. I've seen people disagree on a small thing and just completely, they'll say, no, that word is in there, and then they're gone. I remember I was doing a live stream a long time ago, a program, podcast. I never know what you call them on YouTube. I always feel like there's no good name for it. But I had mentioned, and I probably should have said it off air, but he said the word pastor. I think it was the word pastor is nowhere in the New Testament. That word is not there. And I just said, offhand, I said in Ephesians. So I mean, and it was there. But then he got angry. Next day he calls me. He says, why would you do something? Why would you call me out? And goes on and on and on. So that's a pride issue he had. And nothing I can do about that. That's what he has to do. So we have to deal with that. And I think when we talk about we're supposed to be steadfast, it doesn't mean to be steadfast with anger. I see more people walk away from people because of their anger, their arrogance, their pride. They don't want anything to do with people like that. Now one will say, so you're not going to go out on the streets, hand out tracts, hold up a sign? I didn't say that either. But again, I look at sometimes we'll take the example of fruit from the tree. We'll look at that, and we'll look at someone's life, and sometimes we could see them publicly when we see them. And there are people that make videos out there. You'll watch a couple of their videos, and you're like, why is this guy angry all the time? But they'll call. Well, what happens is there is another confusion of this anger and this righteous anger and unrighteous anger. They don't get it sometimes. They have this whole and sometimes I think what happens is they over-educate themselves. How's that possible? And I find it funny because we talk about the Septuagint. We'll talk about origin. We'll talk about the origins of the Septuagint. We'll talk about the Textus Receptus. We'll talk about the Masoretic text. We'll talk about critical text. We'll talk about all of these things. We're going all around. And this philosopher said, this early church father said, and sometimes I think what happens in a subliminal, what's the word I'm looking for? Not subliminal, subconscious way, we let these things affect the way we read the Bible. Now, I'm a King James onlyist. That's what I would be called. Oh, wow. I would consider myself a Textus Receptus person as well. Whatever. But I became a King James onlyist, which is interesting that would be called that. I think that's hilarious. After reading the King James Bible, I had no idea who all these other people were until years later. I didn't know who Peter Ruckman. Never heard of the guy in my entire life. Never heard of him. Never heard of the guy. Gail Riplinger. Never heard of her for years. Never heard of that person either. I became a King James person before that. Unfortunately, people, I hate to say the word unfortunately, they became King James after listening to Ruckman and Riplinger. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm happy for that. I became a King James onlyist again by reading the King James Bible. That's just me. That's how I got here. People get there a different way. But like Gail Riplinger, people would say, "Oh, you sound like a Riplinger," and da da da, and like the New Age perversions. I've never read the New Age perversions. Sorry, I have never read anything from Riplinger. Although I do have a book that was sent to me by my brother, who had, for some reason, bought me a Riplinger book. Okay, cool. Sam Gipp, that's another one. I don't have a book from Sam Gipp. I've never read a thing from Sam Gipp. It's funny how that works. Is people say you're where you are because of what you read, and yet I'm where I am because I read one thing, and that was the King James Bible. That's how I got there. Just prayer and trying to understand this beautiful book, and that's where I stand on that. I want to run over to Philippians. I'm not going to actually run there. Let's go to Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Philippians 2, verse 3. Let nothing be done through esteem or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem each other. I'm sorry, I said each other. Esteem other better than themselves. Again, something I don't see. I don't see this. It's very rarely do I ever see this. It's nothing but strife. It's nothing but contention. It's nothing but arguing to hammer your point in. Again, when we use the word debate, where's the origins come from? Whether you use Latin, I think it's disamberator or something like that. You use the French, the Middle English, the Old English, French, and you see that it means to what? To beat down. Interesting, the Bible says it's not a good thing either. So I would like to see, it would be nice to see more people defending the faith and aren't arguing all the time. Now, there's a time to argue and a way to argue. I think some people need to learn how to de-escalate. Too many people like to escalate, but they don't know how to de-escalate. They want to ramp it up and ramp it up. Sometimes it's probably because there's a lot of pent-up frustration in there that you feel like nobody's listening to what you have to say. Hey, not everybody's listening to what I got to say either, but I'm not angry all the time. I remember once I was Salvation Army, I was handing out tracts, and the guy says, "You're a moron." Oh, no. You know what I mean? Things like that. So it happens. It's not the only time, but it happens. Doesn't concern me at all. I don't worry about those things. I'm not interested in getting into these circular logic and reasoning and trying to explain to you or try to have a discussion about Neoplatonics and Platonism and how that works and the cosmology and getting all that. Yeah, we can go through all of that. Already been down that road. I'm from New England, Boston. I've already been down the Cambridge, Harvard direction. I've already had those type of conversation with those wonderful people who have more knowledge outside of the Bible with all of the commentary. I'm not saying every single commentary is a negative thing. But when you are going through life, you're going to run into people and they're going to question you, or they're going to want some answers, or they're going to want to, fight you on something. That's fine. Sometimes, like I said before, there are people that you may not even know you're there for. They could be in the aisle next to you in grocery line while you're having a conversation with somebody else. Listen, I still personally think I got fired over having discussions about the Bible with a co-worker in there. Two of them, actually. They were asking questions. And, of course, my boss, being an ESV guy, was getting angrier and angrier, had all types of issues. He did bring up the point that the King James, like, it's a talking point. The King James archaic, nobody understands that. Okay. You're a talking point of the Mark Wards and the James Whites of the world. I don't, whatever. I said, this is the truth. I said, well, this is the truth from the Bible, Lane. I mean, accept it, reject it. It's up to you, man. It's up to you. And sometimes just a short conversation can plant the seed. Maybe someone else comes and waters that seed, to use an old-fashioned analogy. And one day, 5 years, 2 years, 2 weeks, a day, I don't know. All right, I'll answer this one here. You're rejecting someone God put in your life to tell you the truth. Then you ascribe your feelings to me without evidence. Oh, you must not be talking to me. I thought you were talking to me for a second. That has nothing to do with me. Okay. So, and that becomes an issue. You know, I will say that one thing, sometimes someone gets put into your life, and sometimes you're put into someone's life and you have to move on. If they accept it, they accept it. They reject it, they reject it. There's nothing you can do. They either want the truth or they don't want the truth. It's just, there's nothing you can do. And if they'll read. And again, there's a lot more studying on critical texts and stuff like that. And the problem was, actually, there's a good line right here. I like your last line. I don't know who you're talking to, but you're real holy. I don't know. I hope you're not talking to Jorge. And that's the thing I see too. The folks like this, they take on this holier than thou attitude, and they get into the Hebrew and the Greek and so forth, and they go on, and they try to elevate themselves to a level. Sometimes that has to do with the past. Sometimes it has to do with their growing up. It has to do with a denomination they came out of. I don't really judge right away until I have that conversation with somebody. But that's what happens. They've got a lot of this anger, and they feel like, I know one guy who called himself a samurai warrior for God. That was interesting. I've never heard it since from anyone else, but and that's because that's the thing. There are some people who want to be martyrs. They want to do these work. It's like people who go hyper soul winning. They have to do some sort of work. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe in this complete free grace theology of I can do whatever I want anywhere I want and I'm covered. That's a little bit silly as well. James chapter 3. Let's see, James. I'm just going to keep singing the word James. All right, James 3. I hope I got the right verse written down. 16. For where any envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work. That's a good line. You can use that for anything. That's good scripture. And that's what happens. You watch these back and forths, and you see this strife. You see this anger. There's name calling. There's no conversation. And sometimes a conversation can get a little heated or get a little up a little bit. It happens. But people sometimes get there right away. They start off there. They already start off ramped up. They don't start with a civil conversation. They just go right to the roof so they can reject whatever. You know? So, and a lot of people will accuse you of he goes, well, you don't know. And if you tell them something, he goes, well, nope, that's not what it says. That's not what it says. Well, then fine. Then obviously we're at an impasse. You're not going to see what I'm seeing here. You'll see what you're going to see. You can call me the heretic, and then I'm supposed to call you a heretic. Then we go back and forth and maybe make a video about each other, about how awful we are and how, obtuse and stupid. I don't see the Christian love in that at all. I've had people talk about me behind my back. I've had a guy make a few videos apparently about me and talk about me in chat forums. I don't care. Could care less. That kind of proves that I'm pretty sure that person isn't in the right walk. Now, can you get passionate about things? Yes. Can you have a righteous anger? Yes. But what I'm talking about is things that I see that are unrighteous. Unrighteous. Sometimes in like 1 Corinthians chapter 3, it talks about planting the seed. So you have a conversation with somebody. You say, hey, listen, I just want to point this out to you. Okay, man, I appreciate you pointing that out. I'm in disagreement with it. I'll look at that again. Maybe I didn't read it right one time. I'll redo it. Like this Born Out of Season sent me like a 3-page letter, and I appreciate his time going through all that to write me. And I read through it, and I think he had a couple different scriptures in there, and I looked them up, and we don't see it the same way. I think it was Peter, I forget now, But anyways, no, that was another time. But there's nothing I'm going to do to prove to him that what pre-trib and post-trib. And usually people who are post-trib are normally, not always, but the majority are usually Roman Catholics. I know some Methodists who are that way, Unitarians. I don't usually see any. Usually it's a lot of people who are induced and indoctrinated by philosophy. And we know what Colossians 3:8 says about that. You can fact check me on that one. I think it's Colossians 3:8. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I apologize for that. Well, somebody's going to say, why didn't you fact check it yourself? All right, well, okay. Let's fact check it up myself. But they get wrapped up in that. And that's what interferes with things. Of course, you can go to your modern Bibles, which, I mean, pretty much anybody today who's a King James Bible believing Christian knows the whole Westcott and Hort situation. They know about the ASV, ESV, and all that. Tischendorf Sinaiticus, and let's see, Stuttgart, Germany, Leipzig, German rationalism, and all that. That really kind of infiltrated in their Bibles. So, but when you say by the word modern debate, and that's the thing, we take modern things, or we take old things and we change the meaning of them to be modern. My favorite one was 1957 was the last time I saw the word gay used as referring to being happy, and then it changed to a lifestyle. And that's happened all the time. We take things that meant something innocent and nice and turn into something else, or we take something that was evil and bad and then we turn it into something good, like Christmas is obviously one of them, and we then change that over. But it's liberty. Okay, I wrote a book on that. You can agree or disagree on that one, but we kind of tailor things to fit our life. Especially, I like to go to football games. I like to go to basketball games still. I like to watch TV. I like to watch some Marvel superheroes. The little gods, multiple gods, things like that. I like to do this. I like to do that. I like to do, oh my goodness. We fit this. We want to keep our old lives, so we continue in all these things. When you're a new creature, you no longer are part of all that. Now, I guess some people don't quit overnight and they just move on and they're like, I quit everything. Some people take a little bit of time, some people don't. I've known people that, I'll use the word cold turkey. That's an old phrase, I guess, nowadays, where people smoked and they were cold turkey. They were done. They were able to walk away from things. Other people, it was kind of like they're nailing each thing on the list as it goes, because some of the things they've done for years, it's harder for them to do, but they find it easier, but it's still hard. But most of the obvious things are the easy things that go on when you become saved. But again, when folks want to hold on to the past, they try to tailor the Bible to work. You know what I mean? For them. They want to prove themselves somehow. I say prove yourself by living a righteous life the best that you can. What do you mean the best you can? You just have to be a righteous person. That would be someone who somehow has already attained perfection. Don't know how they pulled that one off, but good for them. It's not a thing. We're not all perfect. Never will be. But they'll hold themselves to that level of perfection, but unfortunately not there. I'm not trying to mock anybody in particular or anything like that. I'm not trying to attack anyone. That's not my goal here. I get enough attacks by folks that are anti-King James Bible folks and anti-Textus Receptus. But some people want to get in these dialogues, which I could get into, and discussing old things and get into these highfalutin conversations. But what would that do and what would it matter? The Bible, to me, is simple and clear for most of the way. You take it for what it says. If you don't like what it says, I don't know what to tell you. That's something you're going to have to pray about, and I can pray for you. Others can pray for you. But I think once you remove the maliciousness and the strife, the division, the anger, you are no longer debating. You're actually having a conversation defending the faith. But then we get into these name calls. Oh, you're holding on to something stupid by something else and blah, blah, blah. I see the post-trib, pre-trib here. I haven't read them all in here. But you got that with the John Darby, blah, blah, blah. Dude, that's already been debunked. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing I can add to that. It's already been debunked. It's, the idea and of that, of a catching way has already been around before him. But again, I'm not going to debate someone. Now, I'll have a sit-down conversation with someone if you want to have a nice conversation. That's fine. That's fine. If people want the Bible to say sometimes what they want, not only that, they want it to be more complicated. Like the Roman Catholic Church is a perfect example we can all use, is they want to make things more complicated. They want you to jump through 1,000 hoops. And again, Free Grace will say, no hoops. You can murder. You can rape. It's all good. You still got a place. Okay. I wish you well on that. I don't use the word luck because if you do the history and the origins of luck, you'll get that point. I think there's a lot of work to be done here. I think there's a lot of, oh no, he said work. I think we get messed up on things. We go to Matthew, which is there's another argument. Is it for the Jews? Is it for everybody? I'm like, Matthew chapter 5. Maybe I'm being a little sarcastic. I don't mean to be if it comes off that way. But people want you to see it their way. I've watched these debates and they just fight. They just go back and forth and argue. Ye are the Matthew 5, chapter 14. It's a good one. Ye are the light of the world. The city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. And again, I look at that and I say to myself, what kind of light are you shining? What kind of example are you? What kind of person are you? And that's because as God's people, we're supposed to make a difference, but a positive one, not a negative one. And I find more often than not, these same ones, it's a lot of negativity. Well, the whole Bible, King James, is negative. I got you with that. That is a Ruckman, I believe, says that. Well, maybe a lot of people say it now. But there's a lot of negative in the Bible. There's no doubt about it. The negative is the positive. I can get into that deeper at some other point in time. But I watched this one particular debate channel, and I immersed myself into this because I was fascinated by it, that there are actual people calling themselves born-again Christians who are just arguing like secular people. There was no righteousness in the anger and their arguments. It was just anger. And so for about 2 weeks, I watched a lot of these debates. Put them on the background while I'm doing a lot of research and what I'm doing. Been doing transcribing. I've been transcribing some scriptures lately. So I got on the background and I'm watching these things and they were like train wrecks. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys are Christian? They call each other names all day long. And it's not one particular guy. It was pretty much every single debate. Every single one of them. And they're all, hey, love you, brother and sister, God bless. And it was great to be here and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what in tarnation? This is what's going on. What a mass confusion, chaotic mess. You want to have a conversation, then have a conversation with somebody. But the conversation shouldn't turn into hatred because someone doesn't see it your way. Like, obviously, born out of season, from what I can see out of the corner of my eye, obviously disagrees with me. That's fine. I don't hate him. Why would I? That is completely unbiblical for me to hate him at all. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. And I think he says something about a great falling away. And that's what we see. All these Christians arguing each other, fighting each other and just going tooth and nail and calling each other names, and you're stupid because you don't see it my way. And I'm like, what in the world? And these are the people, in my opinion, are part of that falling away. They may not even know that yet, but they're part of that. It's all about vainglory. That's about what they want. Now, one will say, well, now you're just being Mr. Kumbaya. No. See, this is the problem with understanding when to use discernment, how to react in certain situations. You clearly wouldn't talk to a 3-year-old like you would talk to a 33-year-old, would you? If you do, then I have no idea what you're doing in life, but that's fine. You do what you got to do. But it's a different presentation of how you talk. The words are different. You know, that's the problem. Kind of like with the videos I'm doing about the readability, people go, oh, no one understands this. They can't read this. Give a kid a Bible. He ain't going to understand a King James Bible. Okay. My 2 youngest ones are doing all right. In fact, we just, the video goes up tomorrow, the second video, but like in the first video, Matthew chapter 1, my 10-year-old readability level, it was 81%. And the 13-year-old was at 97%. 1611 version, not the new with the words fixed. So kind of, I wonder when people say things like that, I'm like, really? Have you ever tested this theory? I know I use my 2 kids as guinea pigs for the this experiment. But to me, it just proves what I've always said and what I feel. But again, I'm thinking, all right, well, let's actually put this into practice, which is my biggest thing, is people never seem to put things into practice. They want to talk all day long, but then they don't really get into real meaty conversations. It's like, so when 2 King James guys are talking, it's going to sound one way, right? So if you're attacking a Calvinist the same way as you talk to a Bible believer, it's not the same conversation. You'll argue something that you're already on the same page about. Again, like I said earlier, Methodist and da-da-da, however you argue. And that, again, what's your argument? What is your discussion you want to have? Where are you at defending the faith? If you're only going to come to the table with unrighteous anger and malice and bitterness, what have you done? You've done nothing. There's one particular channel out there. It's a bit of a bigger channel, but kind of reminds me of one of them head coaches where the guys who were assistant coaches on that team at one time go off to, they go off to coach a team, their own team, but they completely fail at it. They're not good at all because they were fine under that coach because they didn't have to know anything. And then they had to go and do things or face things that they didn't know they had to face. And that particular coach did not teach them, which would be that mentor that was supposed to be discipling, didn't give them everything. And they look kind of silly when they get out there, and they look like deer in headlights because they have no idea about the world. They don't have a clue. And I look at those things and I say, okay, I can judge that man somewhat from that fruit. I mean, look at what came from him. What has he left behind? I think these things matter. When you're looking at things, people may sound good. They may sound wonderful. They may sound like they are absolutely filled to the gills with intellectual superiority, and yet they're not. Because what they've done is the intellectual aptitude that they think they have, that they've stored up for so long, is regurgitated facts that they've learned. Or whatever book they read, whatever commentary they went to, that's where they base their opinions. Now, I, of course, grew up one way. Now I'm another way. I was an NIV kid. I grew up on the NIV. Let me tell you, I know the fruit of that tree. And whether you like it or not, I lean towards a Baptist a little bit more. Not a Baptist, but I lean towards them, not only King James, but their attitude is a little bit better going towards things. And they always say King James people are the biggest haters in the world. The King James onlyists are just, they're vile, and they're always yelling at everybody, calling them names. Well, Ruckman would be probably one of those guys that would fall in that category of name calling. But that's the problem. You take these few things, and that's what you base it on. My hope and my prayer is that these Christians that are always debating about everything and angry clearly leave a channel or discontinue fellowship with that person, because clearly you're not on the same page. Like Porn Out of Season said, you don't agree. And I think like a post-trip, pre-trip, because that was in the side here, you take that strain of thought process, whether you're pre-trip or you're post-trip. I don't care which one. I'm pre-trip. I care because I'm pre-trip, but I don't care which one you look at. But you're going to notice the doctrines change on both sides. They look at things. You already know that they're going to see things differently. They're going to read things differently. They're going to approach life differently in most cases. That's what I've seen. That's what I've heard, and that's what I've seen. I mean, the post-trib attitude with the martyrdom complex, they seem to be more on the angrier side. They do. Now, there are people in pre-trib who have this angriness in them as well. Don't get me wrong. They're usually in the minority. They look like they're in the majority because people like to point them out on YouTube and stuff like that, so they look like it. But they're not. I got Proverbs written down here, and I don't know why I have Proverbs written down here. I got to be honest with you. I don't remember why I wrote it down. I'm starting to begin to think this was towards me. You're rejecting someone God put in your life to tell you the truth. Then you ascribe your feelings to me without evidence. Brother Jorge, I don't know if that's to you or to me, to be honest with you, because I don't know where the feelings come into place. I've often, if you've ever watched any of my past videos, I believe feelings have nothing to do with the Bible. The Bible's the Bible. Your feelings have no relevancy to the Bible. Truth is truth. So, and he's right though. That point about the feelings though, and how often people might say things like that. Well, I was put into your life. Maybe you were, or maybe I was put into yours. See, another discussion or argument that could be had, and some people have it. And it's a weird argument to have. You've said what you've had to say. I've said what I've had to say. So if that stays with you and someday it changes you, great. If you say what you say and it changes me for supposedly the better in your opinion, great. That's wonderful. You know, at the end of the day, one of us is right. I'm pretty darn confident I'm right. And it's not because I want to be right and to fight right. And that's, again, the problem. People want to be right. They're less concerned about pointing out what they feel is the truth as much as they're concerned about being right. And men are mostly like this. We're all like, guys, I'm like that too in some ways. Guys have a tendency to, women are a little bit better at that, but guys are absolutely like that. There's this whole issue of being right and the inability to admit when you're wrong. I have no idea what that's like, so I've never been wrong. Huh? Come on. I thought that was kind of funny. Sometimes you just got to throw a joke in there. But I got to find Proverbs 20 here. I'm trying to think of why I had Proverbs 20 now. Proverbs 20, chapter 20, verse 3. It is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be meddling. And what happens? Again, step away from the strife. Don't get involved in that. There's a lot of people talking back and forth out there, attacking this ministry or that ministry and going back. But you know, it happens, and people want you, need you. They want to get outside of the King James Bible. I would rather stay in the King James Bible, but other people want to get outside. They want to inflect what they want into it, and that's fine. They have to answer when the day comes. That's all there is to it. So you can argue with them over and over again. You can be nice to them and courteous and go on, and but they have a hard time letting go because they need to be right. It's like when I was talking to my boss at work, and I said, okay. I said, you know what? Sometimes you got to walk away from a situation that you know is not going to go well. So you just, not a problem. You have a wonderful day. And then somebody will say, well, you're conflating secular incident and biblical incidents are two different things. Well, this is the analogy I'm going to use. You can love it or leave it. That's up to you. What did they say in the 50s? Love it. Was it love it or lump it? I think is what they used to say in the old days. I told them, okay, fine. I said, you know what? We disagree. I misunderstood what you were saying. And that person kept on going. That's what happens. Of course, this was my ESV boss who comes from one of the mega churches because, they're right about everything. Just kept on going. I'm like, dude, you're not going to change the situation. All you're doing is getting angrier and angrier. Why are you looking for a fight? Why are you looking to argue something? We're disagreeing on something. We move forward. Well, what are you going to do? And I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, listen, sometimes you got to dust off your feet and move on. I mean, you're not going to go up to somebody. You're not going to bash them over the head with the Bible so they can get saved. I would have to say literally that is like the worst possible way to do it. Know when to use discernment. Know when to use love. When to be stern, when not to be stern. I mean, I got 4 kids. Some people got 10 kids, 12 kids, whatever. But or you should know anyways, when sternness is used. Do you use sternness with love? Do you use love only? Do you use sternness only? There are moments in different situations when you deal a certain way. When you're witnessing to people, you witness the truth. You don't candy coat it. You don't say, I'm like, oh, you do so many good things and you're going to go to heaven one day. And if you change a lot of people's lives, you can go to heaven one day. And this and that. No. That comes without even trying. Your works come without even trying. When you're born again, the works that you do are automatic. What was the old story? I was talking about that Catholic a long time ago that I worked with. Joe. I think his name is Joe. Pretty simple name. German. He's all about his genealogy and ancestry and where he comes from. Again, I think about the vanity of genealogy. Genealogy is not a bad thing to understand something, but to really get immersed in it controls every aspect. I don't know. But anyway, that's whole nother conversation. But I says, if the guy came by here looking for something that you were going to donate or something or whatever it was. And he goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, you spend some time down helping people? He goes, yeah. I spend my time helping find stuff at the Catholic charity and stuff like that. And I help people. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm not a Catholic. First of all, I'm saying, oh, that's great that you're helping someone. Because it is, by the way. On the surface of that, helping someone's not a bad thing. And I said, oh, okay. I says, so what made you do that? And he goes, well, I have to. I have to? That's an interesting way of phrasing it. I'm like, okay. I said, what do you mean you have to? He goes, well, it balances out in the long run. I said, what balances out in the long run? He goes, well, all the good things I do. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, so you just do all these works and that's how you do it. You just find things. Now, how do you do that? Like, who tells you to do it? He goes, well, I just pick where I'm going to go. Okay. All right. How do you know? I said, how do you know you're helping the right person? Well, because that's where I go. Yeah, but how do you know that you're helping the person who needs it? Because that's where I go to volunteer. Okay, but you're not answering the question here. I'm like, okay. I said, okay, I'll give you an example. When I'm driving down the road, or if you're driving down the road and you see a homeless guy on the right and a homeless guy on the left, which one are you choosing? You got 2 homeless guys. Which one needs it more? He says, well, I don't know. Right. You don't know. So what I do, this is what I do. This is me. I pray and I ask the direction from the Holy Spirit. Lord, you know better than me. Just guide me to which one needs it more. And that's the direction I go. Now, sometimes I may have not made the right choice. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I did. I think the last time I gave food to, I don't give food to a lot of people on the streets as I'm driving. I don't do it all the time. But there was now somebody say, you're just trying to brag about your work. So I'm using these as analogies and conversation to explain that part of it. There's a pregnant woman outside of a Circle K. Wherever you live, I don't know if there's Circle K's in your area. It's a gas station. And I stopped, get a bottle of water for like $1,000. And she was outside, pregnant, a couple of bags of stuff. So I asked the lady inside, hey, what's going on with the lady out there? What's that all about? She goes out. She got kicked out. Her boyfriend was with another woman and told her to get out of the house. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, all right. So I went to my truck, and suddenly I felt the draw. No, I'm not saying this audible voice, and the heavens opened up and went, Stephen, this is what I... Go join Bethel if you want that. Go join Bill Johnson and stuff like that. I don't believe in that, but I believe there is a voice inside of you. I'll lead you to what you're going to do. So I gave her one of my sandwiches that my wife made, and gave her the sandwich and gave her a gospel track. And I told her that, you know, I asked her, hey, take the time to lead a gospel track. You know, somebody loves you out there. And I moved on. Somebody's going, well, that's it. You just threw a gospel track and just move on. These are probably the same people who probably wouldn't have given them the gospel track in the first place. But and I was in the middle of work here, but I did speak for a few minutes, and obviously in that moment she had gratitude and she was thankful for that, and that's fine. And I just moved forward and just moved on. I never did see that person again. Never saw that girl walking anywhere ever again. Never saw her. Never saw her. Somebody one day goes, hey, Stephen, angel's unaware. Could have been an angel. Could have been, buddy. Could have been. I don't know. I don't worry about whether it was an angel or not. I just did what I was compelled to do. And that's what I did. And I wish more of us would stop with the anger and hatred all the time. There's a time to get a little heat in a conversation, but again, like Born Out of Season, we can click all those things here, and that's fine. And by the way, buddy, I'm not saying buddy in a negative way. Somebody said buddy is like talking down to somebody. I don't mean it that way. I'm not angry with you. I ain't mad at you. None of it. You see what you see your way. You can accuse me of anything you want. It won't be the first time I've been accused of something, and it won't be the first time I've been attacked for my belief in the King James Bible. It won't be the first time, and well, it isn't the first time, I should say, and it won't be the last time. I don't worry about this, because this is just, to me, in my opinion, strife. I still love you. God tells us to love, man. Not the Kumbaya 1969, 1970 love. Not Woodstock love. But this is where what happens. We get into all these other this thing. We go down this whole path of anger and frustration and when me and my brother, of course, me and my brother are different because we're actual physical brothers, and we got heated in our conversation. My wife, I remember one time, goes, "Why are you guys yelling at each other?" I says, "It's my brother. We've always been like this." But I wouldn't consider that the same as the world debating. I think we were different because we're just brothers. Brothers are always getting into those little arguments. I got two sons. They get into arguments. Then they hug it out afterwards. They get their points across, and sometimes they change each other's mind. Like, oh, well, I didn't hear you that time. I'm like, whatever, not a big deal. So, hey, listen, if you want to be a person who wants to get involved with debating and arguing and just name calling, yelling, screaming, and full of anger in your heart, man, that's something you're gonna have to pray about and deal with. I'd be more than happy to pray, whether you like it or not. Born Out of Season. I hate to say this, but I'll pray for you as well. I got no issues praying for you, brother. None at all. That's what we're commended to do. So commended. I said commended. I meant to say we're basically commanded to do that. I went off topic. I guess a couple of stories, a little bit. Maybe they're related. Maybe they're not. They came to my mind, so I felt like saying them. But I'll tell you, those debate channels. I am amazed at how much hate, just vile, putrid hate that I see coming on those channels. Just, and it's embarrassing because that's what people see. Secular world tunes in and goes, I'm looking for a different way and this and that. I just, and then, there's a debate channel about the Trinity or about the Godhead or about, I'm going to listen, man. I feel like God's directing me. And they might get to where they got to get to, but then they'll watch one of these and go, see, these Christians are hypocrites. Look at them. They're arguing, hatred. It's kind of like, what's that guy's name? Tim? I'm name dropping. I didn't mean to do that. From another channel. He was debating someone. He's a King James guy. Arguing with another King James guy. This is my point. And meanwhile, as you're making your... One thing I couldn't look past, which just kept on seeing in the background, are these Marvel superheroes. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't take you seriously. I can't. You got idols behind you on the shelf. You have idols. And these are folks, and again, I talked about Reverend Grant. That man, hey, he knew the Bible. He knew it real well, too. But he wasn't living the life of a Christian at all. He was not a good person. Not a good person, it turns out. Not at all. But you wouldn't know it. Because he's able to put up a show long enough behind the pulpit. He was good enough to do that. It's like people on YouTube. They're able to do what they got. And you can accuse me of that as well because I'm on YouTube. But you can do the same thing. You can be a certain person for a certain amount of time. You can say whatever you want to say. But then there's no accountability because we won't see you. You won't see me. I think Brother Jorge is probably the only one in here who's ever met me. We're going to meet another sister, but that vacation didn't work out. But they've seen my home life. And it wasn't putting on an act. I'm the same person. I'm the same person in person as I am on here. I talk a lot. I tell a few jokes. There's these people who have this false sense of righteousness, this false holiness that they have, and it's easy for me to call out some of these if I wanted to. Not as I'm like, oh, what are you threatening? No, what I'm saying is I've seen some of the people's channels that have attacked me. And there's some very unchristian-like things in those videos. But I'm not going out of my way to call them out because everybody wants to be the one to rebuke. Everybody wants to be a rebuker. Everybody wants to be the one to call somebody out. But nobody wants to exhort at the same time. Nobody wants to do it with love. No one wants to guide them in the right direction and say, hey, I'm just going to leave it with you, man. I hope you look into it. No, they say things like, you better look into it or you're going straight to hell. You're an idiot. You're stupid. See, that's the problem. How are you winning souls? And you might win a couple people for a moment and then they fade away. You see that all the time. You get a couple people in church and then they get there like, okay, this is not like what you said. And I don't remember who said it. My brother might have told me the quote, but I guess a pastor or a preacher or something way out one day or a teacher, I have no idea. It said, be careful how you get them into the church. Because now you have to keep them the same way. Which was basically saying, be careful how you try to make it sound good and try to get them in. Tell the truth. If you tell them the truth, they're either going to come or they're not going to come. That's just how it is. Be honest. Well, we want to give them a couple of chocolate chip cookies first. I like chocolate chip cookies. Gotta give them a couple of cookies first. Get them to like the cookies, glass of milk, get them in there, and then we'll hammer them. Well, you lied to them though. It's really like lying. So, should we be debating? And the reason I put in the title "Debating Brothers and Sisters" because that's different than having a conversation or debating with someone outside of the faith. Now, two people are supposedly King James Bible believing Christians, and I honestly don't remember Born Out of Season if you're a King James guy or not. I feel like you said you're a Geneva guy or a Matthews guy. I could be wrong. Sometimes I forget a person I'm talking to. I talk to so many different people. I'm not sure. Offline, I talk to different people, so I don't know. So I'm not insinuating that that's what you are. I just, for some reason, that strikes me. But we're in the same Bible. He's in a different direction. Are we supposed to be angry at one another or fight each other? I don't think so. He sees it the way he sees it. And I see what I see in this Bible. When I look at it, when I read it, how it speaks to me. Again, I think I was fortunate enough to get into the King James Bible without ever knowing King James people. I didn't know, I've said the story before. Luke 4:4 is what got me there. I was reading the King James. I finally got around to it. I was like, been told forever not to read it. And so finally, and I remember Luke 4:4, and I remember it striking me as like, wait, I don't think that's what it says in the NIV. And it doesn't say that in the NIV at all. But, all right. Been here for quite a while, a little over an hour. Didn't think I'd go that long, but I wasn't sure how long. I did see your last comment. I'm sorry. It sounds like it was written to me. Okay, but it's a battle not worth participating. Yeah, for whatever reason, he feels convicted in his opinion and how he sees it. I would pray that he rereads it. He might say that I've been studying this my whole life. I know it. Okay, I don't know, but you won't find argument on this with this guy. Again, this is usually a fellowship here at the end of the week. We just have a conversation and just, but yeah, you're either going to see it the way the Bible says it, or you're not. I'm not going to go find Born Out of Season and run up to him, keep hitting him over the head with the King James Bible until he gets it through his thick skull. That's how a negative, unrighteous person, in my opinion, would act. Well, I'm just going to keep going at him. Well, you can have persistence if you want, but you said what you had to say. If they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen. And he'll say the same thing. He'll say, you don't want to listen. Okay. That's okay. That's fine. I'm a preacher person because the scriptures, in my opinion, are so obviously clearly telling you that. And if you did go back in history and did all the studies and you go further back, it's already talked about even way back then as well, before John Nelson Darby, because they like to do the whole Darby Scofield. I'm not a Scofield guy either. I do have an old Scofield Bible, but the 1917, I think I have two, 1917 and 1941. I think. I'm not sure what the years are. I mean, I got the ASV as well, the first printing of the first edition, 1901. Oh, and of course, you got the ERV here. I'm sorry, ERV. The revised version, Westcott Hort. Oh, I like to keep these on my desk. It reminds me of the corruption. And you got the 19... What year is this? This doesn't have a year in it. I thought it was 1900. Oh, I thought it was a 1900. It's a 1904. This is a 1904 Greek, the 20th century New Testament, translated into modern English, made from the original Greek. I really love saying that. Original Greek Westcott Hort text. I like keeping these right next to me always reminds me of how corrupt people have become. So, all right. Well, with that, I'm thankful for everybody who came in this evening. I appreciate that time. Yeah. And, oh, wait. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe button. No, what was it? Smash that like, whatever. It's like, that's another thing. It's weird. I know it's a weird side note. I'm confused at Christians who have a bunch of commercials in their videos. I find that strange. It's just weird to me. But that's a whole other conversation, I guess. All right. With that, I will awkwardly, like I always do. I have not done all evening. Take a nice sip of water out of the good old mason jar. All right. And with that, I do appreciate everything. Sister Dorcas is not with us this evening. Brother Chris is not with us this evening. Brother Clifton's not with us this evening. Sister Esther, she sometimes catches the program afterwards. I say program. People go, oh, it's just a program to you. I have no idea what to call it. It's a YouTube video live stream thing. I don't know what to tell you. But she's not with us this evening. Well, continue to pray for them to make sure they're okay. We know Sister Axe out in Texas. She's okay from the last time I heard, so that's awesome. Not awesome about the lives that were lost, but awesome that she's okay. So that's great. All right. With that, I will awkwardly sign out as always. God bless and have a beautiful week if I don't talk to you before then. All right. Good night.